Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fired Up with Bink, Season 3, Episode 3. So, this is not in um, the same space that my episodes are normally focused on. This is about Spotify itself. I have been on the Spotify for Creators chat for the past hour and a half, roughly. And it is because I have found that Anchor was the previous platform where I launched my podcast in 2022, I believe. And although I've never been a big name show, I don't have sponsors, I don't have a lot of traffic, I don't have the engagement, right? But I did have a substantial amount of more of those things with Anchor. And since it has switched to Spotify, I have basically no traffic. So I was and am still in queue speaking with someone from the Spotify customer service support chat, which I believe is AI. I could be wrong, but I do believe that. And in the previous chat with another support member, I was being admonished about the fact that their responses are not instantaneous. And if they couldn't respond to me instantly in the next exchange or question that I may have, that they would transfer me to another person, which is what has happened in real time as I'm recording this episode. So this episode isn't going to be very long at all. Basically, I wanted to take power of my voice and my podcast back. So, hi, my name is Fired Up with Bink. Well, the name of my show is Fired Up with Bink. I'm Bink. And so this is a very raw uploading right now because my responses are raw into the way in which I was handled by Spotify. I believe my channel is being suppressed. There are other podcasts that have Bink in the title. There are other podcasts that have Fired Up in the title. So I believe because those shows are receiving more traction, that I'm being pushed at the bottom of the algorithm or whatever the system is of who's pushed up in the forefront of searches and accessibility to the podcast. It basically would be the equivalent of payola, right? If you were operating in a radio space and you're wanting certain artists' music to be heard and other artists' music not to be heard as much. That whole type of scenario was played out in front of us with the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef and all the accusations of Kendrick Lamar's song being pushed in front of Drake's songs, which over the last 10 years, I mean, you have been pretty much, or anyone who's a music listener, and even more specifically myself, I don't even listen to a radio station at all, locally or otherwise. I play my own playlist and I listen to things that I want to listen to because there was a time when nothing was on the radio but Drake. And it felt like, you were being inundated with Drake music, Drake promotion, whatever that may be, whether you wanted it or not, which is why I disconnected and I don't listen to radio stations just now as a rule. And that has been for quite some time. I have nothing against radio. I love radio. I love music. And I also love being able to express myself on this platform that I had no control over the fact that it was assumed by Spotify. It went from Anchor to Spotify. Why that is, I don't know. However, I felt that Anchor was more supportive to its creators. I felt that there was more options and ways um, to express and to create your podcast um, on the Anchor platform. And quite frankly, it seemed as though creatives were welcomed to be on the Anchor platform. But that isn't the case here with Spotify. I don't know what that's about, if it's a corporate mindset. So, if you're not popular, then we don't care. I don't know what that is. But as a small creator, a small channel, podcast, and a very unknown creative, okay? I am speaking out. I am calling attention to it. And I am also advocating for myself as the creator of Fired Up with Bink podcast. I believe that anyone who wants to share and be in the space of podcasting, if you're not inciting fear, violence, or trying to indoctrinate people into your way of thinking or any of those things, then free speech still is alive and well. And so I am not trying to convince anyone of anything. I am simply sharing my life experiences related to being in the mental health provider world and wanting to reach people who may be able to relate to that subject matter. And in no way, shape, or form or fashion am I expecting or believing that people should agree with everything I say or anything that I say. You have that right to digest and listen to what you want, and what you don't, then absolutely by all means do not. And so this isn't to the listeners, because I don't believe this is a listener issue. So if my voice sounds as though I'm like scolding and somehow like telling off the listeners, please understand that is not the case. I don't believe that the listeners are behind what it is that I'm speaking of. As a matter of fact, I know the listeners are not behind that. You guys are not the people who have put together the platform and have control over the format of the platform itself. So this isn't to the listeners, although as it relates to my Spotify platform now, I don't have any listeners, right? So to any potential listeners, this isn't to you. This is to Spotify. If you're allowing anyone who wants to create a podcast and who falls in the guidelines of being able to upload their podcast on your platform, then no one should be suppressed. No one. And allow the listener to have the free choice, the free will, and the ability to use their reasoning and the ability to make choices for themselves and to find the creators and the podcasters that they want to listen to, and those that they don't have to do that. But allow it to be the listener's choice. Allow it to be organic. Allow for people to be able to be discoverable on the platform, and that people are not being pushed down in the algorithm because they don't have thousands of followers. I potentially could if given the chance. So that's what this very short episode is about. As I sit here today, and I have yet to receive a response from the person that I was last in contact with on the Spotify customer support chat. Um, Allow listeners to have free choice. Allow listeners to be able to discover who it is that they want to discover, and stop pushing people up front that Spotify believes should be up front. It's not right. It is not free speech being enacted or deployed. And quite frankly, I'm very frustrated. I'm a little irritated and agitated right now, in my spirit, just simply because, as I said, with Anchor, it was such a smoother experience. And it seemed as though Anchor cared. And maybe they didn't. Maybe they just made it look as though they did. But whatever they were doing, it worked. And yes, Spotify is a big name. And yes, Spotify is well known, all over. But it doesn't matter. Everyone who ever started a podcast on your platform had to start at ground zero. And then they were allowed to grow. So Fired Up with Bink should be no exception. So thank you for listening. I hope that maybe this draws some attention to my channel. If you enjoy it, if you enjoy the podcast, I would love to have you come back. If I'm not your cup of tea, no judgment. That's okay. And if you want to just listen for a few episodes and give me a chance, I welcome that as well. So have a great rest of your Sunday evening.